Tell me this event page does not look incredible. Like, dude, this looks so clean. Oh my goodness. No, okay, but like this dude is fire. But anyway, let's get into it. Alright, so as you can see, I overcapped my stamina for a couple days to farm these shells, hopefully get some good ones early. Alright, so let's talk about them. Got new shells, new characters, new buffs. Let's do some theory crafting. So Champion Gator, I feel like very well could be Raymary's best in slot turn 1 shell, because it has Wellspring and Bloodbath. When a unit dies in battle, right, so that's anybody, your teammate, their team, whatever, purify 3 debuffs, and then at max level, it's all debuffs, right? So full cleanse from the character with the shell on, and 50% heal, and 30% turn meter push. And so what this does is, especially with the Yelly buff, right, I feel like it's going to be much more consistent that Yelly actually snipes off one character now, right? Because the first follow-up is guaranteed, the second one is 70%, and the third is 49% now, instead of 36%. So most of the time with a defense break, Yelly will finish off a character with just 2 follow-ups, and without a defense break, a lot of the time 3 is enough. And the defense break should be much more consistent now as well. So I think Yelly is probably going to be able to just kill stuff, which will trigger this and Raymary's passive, right? Her S3 will go off, put vulnerable on everybody, steal like maybe 30% turn meter, and then this gives another 30%, so she always gets the next turn. And then with Wellspring being buffed now, you can go 12 Wellspring, 12 Bloodbath. You'll have a whopping 80% damage reduction if you're taking more than 20% of your health in one hit, which likely gives you plenty of survivability in the cleave scenario, right? So you don't need Amber against cleave. And then in the CC scenario, if you pick just one squishy unit, right? So like for me, I always pick Mio when I'm tanking down, because I don't want to have to deal with them picking Mio, right? But in that case, like Mio is always going to die before your Raymary, and so she'll cleanse all and boost 30%. Now this will probably work against CC as well. Probably not as good as Amber, right? She'll probably be a bit weaker against CC than with Amber, but against Cleave she should be stronger, and then in Cleave she should be a lot stronger, because you also get another 45% HP. Right, so that's basically another right side piece worth of stats. Right, you can go like crit rate, double crit damage, and then use this as your HP piece, or you can go double HP, crit rate, crit damage, and just tank hits. So your damage will be higher in the turn 1 setup as well. So I feel like this could be very strong on Raymary, and probably also quite good on Sonya, right, because of the Evil Guard buff, right? You get some speed from here. You can go Evil Guard, Bloodbath, and then Strive, Bulwark, Wellspring would all be good 8 pieces. So I feel like Sonya for sure can make good use of this, and then Raymary probably also. Moon Bunny. At the start of the battle, grants the host animus 1 stack of Mortal Essence, which when you get hit by a skill that does damage, right? So not Fiamelia's S3 or Veronica's S2. Those just remove HP. They don't deal damage. Grants immunity to all debuffs, cooldown increase, and turn meter decrease effects, and then you lose your 1 stack. So this is basically like a skill effect nullifier from Epic 7, right? So all the skills that affect your guys are just shrugged off once. This shell, I feel like, will be extremely good at speed contesting Freyas. I think people are sleeping on that, right? Because what you do is, right, you run the Swift Rush, Swift Smite, Strive, right? And then if you put this on your Turandot, and she's like, I don't know, 360 speed, 360 plus, anything like that, they'll basically have to use the Freya S3 to push you back, especially if you have Plume on your team, because you're going to cut if they just try an S2. But if they hit the S3, you've got this skill effect nullifier, and so it's not going to push you back anyway, and you strive to the front. So I feel like a Moon Bunny on your fast speed contests will be really strong. I think the strongest thing is that you can have Strive and Bulwark, right? Because this is basically a Bulwark for 1 hit, right? It keeps you from getting pushed back by the Mio S3, by the Freya S3, by whatever. But then you also get Strive. So I feel like this will be a very good shell for speed contesting. It has double Swift, and so you can put this on like some of your slower speedsters, right? Like maybe your Suki is only like 340 something. Well, you can put this on her and she's going to be very tricky to deal with. Other than that, maybe healers, right? Your healers can probably use this because it's got Bloodbath and the healing matrices. Doomcrow, this thing is pretty awful. I was really hoping this would be like some kind of like stealth shell or something, so that you could use Bornova in PvP, right? Like Doomcrow or Ace Batter, like one of them. The ability would like give you stealth, and it has onslaught, so you can lifesteal and like you don't get hit. But no. So if you do an attack that's not on your turn, so follow-ups and assists, right? So anyone paired with Lily or Rahu or Holden or whatever, low on. You deal extra damage equal to 240% of your defense. I believe this does crit, just like White Fang's ability, just like Tigerian's. So it is a lot of damage, but there's not a whole lot of characters who can drop the utility of their current shell to equip this. I think Mizuki Makoto could have like a real comeback, because it's got all 3 of the matrices she needs, and especially with the Palin buffs, right? You bring Mizuki on Doomcrow with Palin, and like she's gonna just tear people to shreds. So, but other than that, I don't know if this is all that good. Right? Pretty much everybody else, like all the other bruisers, you're going to be picking into the turn 1 matchup a lot, right? Like Mizuki, it's usually only against other turn 2 players, right? So you can get away with this, but against turn 1, you kind of need Amber or maybe Gator, or you just die, right? So I don't think you can run this on really any of the other bruisers, but who knows? Maybe this effect is strong enough. Maybe I'm underestimating it. An Ace Batter, we got ourselves a new PvE shell. This thing is going to be probably best in slot for PvE, right? Because it's got the momentum, right? In Nether Quarry and stuff, you pretty much always run your DPSs on momentum. Yeah, this is like White Fang's ability on steroids. Right, White Fang gives you, 80 crit damage, but this thing does 2,000% once it's all stacked up, and it's only a 2-turn cooldown, so like this is going to stack pretty fast in Nether Quarry and whatnot. Right, and you've got your full DPS set up, so this is another very strong PvE shell that you're probably almost certainly going to want to have a couple of built. Right, it's only on the main target, so this is definitely better it's better against bosses. But yeah, I'm sure there's somebody who can use this in PvE. Right, probably... Kokardi for sure. Right, he's just gonna one-shot stuff. That's crazy. Once this gets stacked up, like he's gonna target somebody and they just die. Born can probably use it because he's tanky. He'll actually get this stacked. Who else would this be good on? There might be some like crazy Messiah build you could cook up with this because he gets the invincibility, but I don't know. Yeah, those are the new shells. I think Champion Gator and Moon Buddy have a lot of potential. Doomcrow is really disappointing. So anyway, module changes. So Harvest is up to 40% defense now, which is huge. I think now this Harvest build I have is probably better than Fury. That's nice. This might also be better with Harvest now, also, but I don't know. I'm still always pairing her with a defense break anyway. I don't think, even with the Harvest buff, I don't think P1 is strong enough to like consistently one-shot like P5 bruisers. So I'm always going to have her with a defense break anyway, and so I'm not sure about Harvest. Cure got a nice buff. It's healing and shielding now, so you can use it on any of your healers. 10% speed on Evil Guard, so this is actually a usable set in PvP now. I mean, before this entire row was like a PvE exclusive Matrix sets, but now they're all probably usable in PvP, and Wellspring especially is going to be really good. Right, Wellspring and Bloodbath. If you take more than 20% of your health and damage, you get that 80% damage reduction, I think. Maybe they don't stack. They might not stack, right? But it says by an additional 25% and additionally reduced by 55%. So I'm assuming they do stack. They might not be additive. They might be multiplicative though, right? So 100 damage would be reduced to 45, and then you would decrease that by another 25%. Rather than 100 going down to 20 damage, it would be 100 down to 45, and then 45 down to 33. So, but either way, it should be a lot of damage reduction, right? You can, I think all the healer shells have Wellspring and Bloodbath, right? Your Supernova, Alicorn, Gigabyte, Jackal Guard, and Reaper Steps, and now also Champion Gator, they all have both. So it's definitely something you can consider for your healers, right? Like as if Sanya wasn't already unkillable enough. And then Wellspring, it would be good on your HP scalers, but there's no good HP like bruiser shells that have Wellspring, so except for maybe once again Champion Gator. This could definitely be good as like an Amber replacement. Definitely, it's like a more offensive Amber, less defensive. But anyway, so I don't think that's gonna make people all that much tankier, but there are going to be probably a few replacement builds where you use Wellspring instead of Bloodbath, so that'll be interesting. Coloss Guard, I think this got increased resistance, now it's 30, so you get a little bit more effect res on this, which is, it can be nice. Battle Will went up to 30%, still useless. If it was 50%, I think it would be worth running, but 30% is pretty terrible. Then Onslaught got that lifesteal, which is huge. Whoa. Whoa. New discovery. It shows you all the shells that have it. That's cool. Yo, how many of you guys knew that you could click on this matrix effect in the archive? All right, archive module matrix effect, and it shows you all the shells with it and where you farm it. You can just go straight to the. That's cool. And then Unbreakable got increased shield received by 50%. I think once again that's probably not going to be that impactful. You're definitely not going to be able to run Unbreakable instead of Bloodbath on most units, I don't think. Sure, there's somebody that you could swap out Bloodbath for Unbreakable, but the 8 piece is still good though. 20% more shield is quite nice. And as for the new characters, start with Bornova. His speed is decent. His attack is really low, right? 977. I think that's like the same as Rosa. Yeah, it's quite low. All right, not as low as Nevet. Abysmal 919, and that's at P5. All right, I think it's what is it, like 830 at P0. So this guy is gonna have no attack. Gonna have probably like 850 attack or something. Festering, yeah, I mean this guy's purely a PvE unit. He's like a green Chloros basically, right? Because Festering goes on the target. It's not a buff for him, it's a debuff on the target. So it's not going to be very useful for PvP, right? Because unlike Chloros's skill 3, this does not transfer when the main target dies. So now he will most certainly be best in slot against any blue bosses in PvE, right? He's going to be an absolute monster, but PvP, don't even bother. And then this guy, the absolute Aura Beast. His health is very high, right? Like Tiamat 16,400. This is chilling with 16,300. So it's going to be pretty easy to get him to like 45, 43,000 with only 1 HP piece, and then you're probably going to want to run 2 because here, right, his skill 2 is insane. It deals 36% damage, which is pretty good, of his max HP to all enemies. All right, so let's say you're rocking, 50,000 health. Right, that's a sizable chunk of damage. That's right, it's not true damage like Fiamelia's S3, so it is going to be reduced by defense and the protection field effect and bloodbath and everything. So it's probably going to do like 8,000 or 9,000 damage without a crit, and probably like if you have him built like a bruiser, 200 something crit damage, it's probably going to do like 14,000, 15,000 damage. So definitely solid, with a 50% chance to increase the target's animus and shell skill cooldowns. So the same effect as Santic's skill 2 and Lily's skill 3, but if his max HP is higher than the target's, the chance to increase cooldowns rises to 100%. So just like Holden's S3, where, if it's a crit, the chance is doubled, this guy is going to be able to very consistently reset cooldowns. And then, regardless of what your health is, it also has a 100% chance to reduce his own skill cooldowns by 1 turn, which is super strong because this skill has 100% turn meter steal with a 4-turn cooldown. So he takes his turn, right? He hits the turn meter steal. It gives him an extra turn, because it's 100%. This goes from 4 turns down to 3 turns, and then he hits this, which reduces it down to 2 turns, right? And then his turn ends, which reduces the cooldown by 1 more turn, right? So it goes from 4, you take your extra turn, down to 3, you reduce it by 1, down to 2, and then your turn ends down to 1. His skill 3 is on a 1-turn cooldown, assuming you actually land this turn meter steal. It's a 1-turn cooldown, right? Because your cooldown decreases by 1 turn at the end of your turn. Alright, so first turn you hit this, it goes down to 3 when you take your extra turn, and it would go down to 2, but because you have this, it goes down to 1. So you take your next turn, your skill 3 isn't up yet, and then after that, it's already back up. Crazy. Because this thing hits hard too. 3 hits of 20% of his HP, right? That's what is that, like 30,000-ish health worth of motion value, right? 60% of his health, that's like 30,000-ish. This skill is pretty, like compared to Santic, it's a very high risk, high reward, because let's say you use this, right? It does 3 hits of damage, right? The first hit, 100% chance to dispel all debuffs from the target, which is quite nice. Second hit is a 3-turn defense down, which is also really nice. And then the third hit is a 100% turn meter steal. However, if you're using this like as your buff strip against a Fushu or something, and you miss this buff strip on the bulwark, you just lost your turn, right? You took your one turn and then did nothing, basically. You did a little bit of damage, and then your turn is over. And there's always a 10% chance to miss your debuffs, no matter how high your effect accuracy is, no matter how high your base chance is, unless it says specifically in the skill description, guaranteed. If it says guaranteed, it will land no matter what, as long as they don't have immunity. Right? Guaranteed, as long as they don't have immunity. And Loan specifically, her buff is a yellow buff, so it ignores immunity also. Or a yellow debuff. But yeah, so even though this is 100% base chance, it still has a 10% to miss, no matter how high your effect accuracy is. So against Bullrick units, you have to dodge that 10% twice in order to get your second turn. Whereas Santic, he just hits the S3 and he gets his turn regardless. So I am definitely going to lose some games because of this. But assuming you hit, this is super strong. You dispel the Bulwark, you push them back so that they never get their turn, and then you put defense down on them into your skill 2, which increases their skill cooldown by 1 turn, so even when they do eventually get their turn, they don't do anything. And this does pretty good damage to soften them up so that your next character can go. Yeah, you're gonna build Kethos for turn 1 on a speed build, right? Probably triple HP right side with Insight on the shell. And you're going to want him faster than your damage dealers, except for probably Senyu, right? His base speed is nothing to write home about, so it's going to be hard to get him that fast. But, 117, that's plenty fast enough to get him to like maybe 320-ish. You probably just go HP, 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 or maybe double HP and crit rate. And that's not even, I forgot to even talk about the skill 1. So it does decent damage, nothing crazy. It has a chance to transfer 2 debuffs from himself to the target, so once again, nothing crazy. But Bloodright is quite strong, right? Whenever an enemy animus actively uses a skill, which I'm not positive if that means your skill 1, or if it's just your other skills that have cooldowns, but I think skill 1 probably is included. I hope it's not, because if it isn't, that means there's like a lot more skill expression, right? Like now, maybe you skip your Freya S2 and you just go, Plume S3, Nahor S3, and then your damage dealer goes next, right? Because if you use your Freya S2, that means your damage dealer gets their turn completely skipped, right? Because after 3 active skills, he steals the next character's turn. So even if he's frozen, like he'll steal their turn, he won't do anything because he's frozen, but your DPS still gets skipped. So this I feel like is going to be quite strong in the Bruiser mirror match, but it's probably going to be pretty useless in... This will be really strong in CC as well, I think. Like maybe you miss the CCs and then like Aya goes and then Sylph goes and then Sanya goes, but then... Right, and that like transforms Tiamat, but then he just skips... Like he steals Tiamat's turn. Like that could be really strong. I feel like his skill 1 is probably quite strong in CC as well. Oh, wait! Immediately starts the next turn before the next enemy animus acts. He'll keep them frozen for an extra turn because he steals their turn. Wait a second. That enemy animus completely skips their turn. This is going to be super strong in CC, right? Because if their cleansers are going, you can keep their DPS CC'd for extra turns, right? So like Linglo is going to be really bad because the animus has to actually take their turn for the whale prayers to cleanse. Yeah, this could be super good. Yeah, really it's the skill 3 and skill 2 that's going to be busted for turn 1. Alright, having an extra single target buff strip on your team is always nice. Ideally, you would have him 1 speed faster than your CC, right? It's like 1 speed faster than Nahor or Mio or whatever, so that he can reset their cooldowns before your dudes go. Especially with freeze being nerfed now, with it only stopping 50% of the turn meter push. If you just land this on the Aya or whatever, right? Land this on the Alicorn Doki so that she doesn't get any cleanses, right? Land this on Fia so that she's not able to hit the S3. Like, this guy could be very strong in CC. And then he turns off Ambers as well because he increases the cooldown by 1 turn, so he's going to be super, super good in Cleave also. He does a lot more damage than Santic, so you're not losing out on damage for utility. Although you're not really losing damage with Santic either because he gives you this crit damage buff as well as the stacking crit damage buff. So he still like boosts your team's damage by a lot. But Kethos allows you, especially as a standard player, to flex turn 1, turn 2 a lot easier. You pick him early in the draft. You can tank down with this guy, and this will interrupt their damage dealer, right? Or maybe interrupt their CC. So I feel like he's going to be an incredibly strong defensive pick as well, right? Which, you know, he's a kinetic character, but like really he's an LD, right? Like this guy has the kit of an LD. It's just he has the elemental weakness. All right, like that's basically it. He's just weak against blue characters, but that's it. Other than that, in my opinion at least, this is an LD kit. This is really strong. I have my Tiamat at 50k with 2 right side HP bonuses, right, and like basically no HP in the substats. All right, my substats are atrocious, HP wise. All right, I've got like decent crit and whatnot, so I think you'll be able to get Kethos pretty easily to the, like, in the 50,000 range on like 310, 320 speed. And as for buffs, yeah, Messiah S3 does 400% damage now instead of 360, which, if my calculations are correct, that is an 11% damage increase. So, you know, basically 3p5 for everybody. So, you know, he hit like a truck before, he's going to hit like a train now. he's going to do a lot of damage. And then Yelly, this was the buff I was happiest about, right? Yelly getting more consistent, basically, right? Because, like, I think her damage was fine, right? Like, if you high rolled, if you landed the defense break and 3 follow-ups, like, most things just don't survive that, right? Like, even on this build I have with, like, no crit damage, if you land a defense break and then follow up 3 times, like, stuff just dies. But before the buff, it was 1 guaranteed follow-up, 1 at 60%, right? The second one at 60%, and the third one was only a 36% to hit. Right now, it's 1 guaranteed, 1 at 70, and then 1 at 49. So basically a coin flip for that third follow-up. But you're going to be hitting 2 almost all the time. And with a 75% base chance for the defense down, it's also going to hit most of the time. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right, with the 75 base chance, the chance to miss 3 times in a row is 0.25 times 0.25 times 0.25, something like that. Only a 1.5% chance to lose the 75-25 3 times in a row. But let's say they have effect resistance, it would be cut in half. So instead of 75%, it's 37.5, which the remainder is 60. 0.67. It's 67.5% to miss times. Right, so against a full effect res unit, it's a 30% chance to miss all 3 hits of the defense break, if I'm doing the math right. But with non-effect res, you're looking at like a very, very small chance to miss all 3 times. Now, you do kind of want the first hit to land the defense down, because you want these extra hits to do more damage, but the one that's really important is that your huge follow-up attack has the defense break, especially if you're landing like 3 of them. So I'm probably going to level this at some point, right? Maybe after I build Kethos, I'll get this up, because I think Yelly's worth it now, but we'll see. I was really hoping they would bring this to 80%, but 70% is good. It's a good start, at least. 80% would have made her not just way more consistent, but also way stronger, because now instead of averaging like 2 follow-ups, you'd be averaging 4 probably, right? Because like I think you would have a higher chance with an 80, right? With this being 80% of the previous chance, I'm pretty sure you have a higher chance to land 4 follow-ups than you did to land 3 before. But anyway, so that's Yelly. Who else got buffed? Holden got a buff. I don't think that's relevant. Mia got a buff. I think that's kind of huge, right? Like Chloros might actually be a real unit now in PvP, right? Because you would take Mia with Nymphoniel and then Red Deeding, right? And then you put a Law of Silence Chloros on 3, and then you extend the duration of all his buffs, including the Void State. And then Mia gives 50% damage reduction, and Void gives 50% reduction, and then Deeding's shield gives a gigaton, right? And so he just becomes like unkillable. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I'm not gonna build him to test it, but I think someone's gonna cook up something cool with the Mia buffs. Kokardi got a buff. He does some more damage now. That might be relevant, right? I think his biggest problem is his survivability, right? Like he just dies too easy, right? Like everything just kills him with AoE. So I think the real Kokardi buff is Onslaught getting that lifesteal, right? If he can heal up as long as he doesn't get one shot, he might be a lot stronger, especially with, you know, doing more damage now. Leanne, she does a lot more damage, still probably not good. I think her biggest problem is the fact that the skill 3, if it just doesn't steal turn meter, she's really bad. And then you're not building any effect accuracy, so it's only an 80% chance, and then against anyone with effect res, it's cut even more than that. They need to make this guaranteed, I feel like, to make her any good, right? Bunch of damage to all enemies, and it's guaranteed to steal 30% turn meter, and then I think she's good. But until they do that, like, right, because she has to skill 3 into skill 2, right? If she doesn't get the double turn, she just is not good, right? And then for PvE, she's also not good because the skill 2 is random, right? If the skill 2 hit the main target, like, you know, until it was out of stacks or until the target was dead and then it was random, I think once again she would be quite good in PvE. But Yada buffs, she starts with 1 stack, so you only need 6 buffs now to get her fully stacked up instead of 9, so there's probably some teams that you can fit her into now that you couldn't before. Linglo, it used to be that her skill 2 heals everybody for 16%, and then the main target of the skill 2 gets healed an additional time for, I think, also 16? And then it extends all your buff durations. Now, it's every ally gets healed twice, so she's a lot better for healing now. And then her skill 3 also heals for more. That's really nice. Suki, her skill 2 got buffed. She did not need a buff on her skill 2. The only thing Suki needs is higher base speed, right? Like, if she was 127 base speed instead of 122, she would be so good. But, I don't know. Like, this could make her a little bit stronger, right? On that second rotation, you hit the S2 and it actually lands silence, like, fairly consistently now, maybe. So, I mean, it's nice to have, but it's not going to change her pick ability at all. Alright, she's just going to be, you know, she's still going to be good where she's good and still not good where she's not good. Palin. I have literally not played Palin at all, ever, so I don't know if this change is particularly good. I know that the buff Dispel just, like, never hit before, so maybe it hits some now. Slint's debuffs last longer, which, I think really only affects Loan for the most part. I think Slint cycles fast enough that she can keep Forgetfulness up on everybody anyway. Except Loan, right? Loan is usually faster than Silence, so she cycles out of it. But, you know, it's nice to have. Navette. Navette got Giga buffed. Alright, so first buff for PvE, bosses are counted as controlled, right? Because you can't CC bosses, so part of her kit was just disabled. It used to be that against affinity weak bosses, she got a better version of her passive where they take a bunch of damage, or where she ignores, like, all their defense, but they're still not CC'd, and so you would still not get buffs from, like, Sword 7, right? So, but now they're considered as CC'd, so she gets all of the rest of her passive and then also Sword 7, so she, wherever she may have been good in PvE before, she's better now. And the skill 2 does way more damage. It was 160% per hit, now it's 200, it's another 120, so you get almost a 4th hit worth of damage added to the skill 2. Almost. So that's going to do pretty decent damage now. It already did pretty decent damage, that's going to do a lot of damage now. And then the skill 3, this is the biggest one in my opinion. And she does 3 hits of 210 damage instead of 180, so it's an extra 90% motion value. Alright, and the Petrify went from a pitiful 25% to 35%, which is huge, right? So now instead of 3 hits with, you know, assuming your effect accuracy is 100% higher than the enemy, instead of 3 hits of 50%, it's 3 hits of 70%, which is much more consistent. And then assuming the enemy is Giga Effect Res, it goes from 3 hits of 12.5% to 3 hits of, what is this, 15.5? 17.5. Right, 3 hits of 17.5, which is also much more likely to hit. And then she's fast now. 2 more base speed. She goes up to, what is that, 126 base speed at level, or at 6 star. Alright, so she's the same speed as Mio now. So that's also huge because the build you usually want to run her on is only 8 Swift Rush. So she needs the speed. Rahu, yeah, this is like the biggest rage bait buff of all time because, like, you're still going to just miss his assist every turn, and then instead of it being a 50-50 and being like, okay, sure, I lost 3 50-50s in a row, now it's a 60-40. So statistically it shouldn't be happening, and it's still happening. So it's like this change is going to make him even more rage-inducing to play as, right? Because like you just know you're going to roll that 40% like 4 turns in a row, and it's just going to suck. Doki getting 5 base speed increase. It's going to make her a lot harder to deal with for CC, and it's going to make her a lot stronger as an opener, right? 5 speed increase, that brings her up to 125 base speed at 6-star. Yeah, it's pretty easy to get a 125 base speed unit in the high 340s, right? Low 350s. So, right, she doesn't need really any effect res. Like the Doki buff with this new Moon Bunny shell, right? You're not going to need any effect res. You just build her like 350 speed, Swift Rush, Strive, Swift Smite on Moon Bunny, and she can be your opener against much faster like Freya setups and stuff if they're trying to CC you. And yeah, so she's going to be a much stronger opener for turn 1 now. All right, Messiah buffs. Did he need a buff? I'm not sure. Probably, right? Because at P0 he kind of doesn't do his job, right? Like his job is to just go in and one shot, which at P0 he kind of wasn't doing, right? But then buffing his damage makes him an absolute beast at P5, so yeah, I think he's going to be quite a bit better. Right, Yelly, she should be much more consistent now. Still probably not as consistent as I would like, right? You know, I really wish this was 80%, but this should help a lot. I think, you know, if I had it my way, this would be 80% and this would be 100%. Ray Mary, small nerf. I don't think this is relevant. It might be for CC, right? If you're a CC player, and, you know, the Ray Mary gets 100 stacks and then she unfreezes and hits you with this follow-up that, like, basically one-shots your team. Or at the very least guarantees that you will get one-shot by her next S3 after she pops out of Amber. Maybe this nerf makes it so that you don't get 2-shot anymore. Yeah, I don't think this is going to change anything about Ray Mary at all. Right, you know, maybe, like, the P5 Ray Marys probably won't, like, triple ult as often. Because they're not doing quite as much damage, but I don't know. The nerf that Ray Mary needs is just them fixing the Amber interaction, right? Like, they just need to make Amber go first, right? You know, if your character dies, Amber just, like, cuts in before everything else and just puts you into the ice state, and that's the end of that, right? No more kamikaze S3 right before the Amber goes off, right? You know, same with Tiamat, right? Like, she should not go dragon form, right? She should just, like, straight away go into ice. Right, that would fix almost every problem that every player has with Amber, and it would still keep Amber, like, really strong and working properly to give you a second life and everything. But, you know, Amber goes last, right? Everything else goes first. Your Brambles, your Tiamat transformation, your Ray Mary S3, like, everything goes, and then Amber does its thing. Small Freya nerf, right? She pushes back 3% now instead of 4%. Still 70% chance to trigger up to 3 times per turn. The effect is doubled for Freya. So before, she could push you 8% 3 times, which, you know, 24% pushback is kind of ridiculous on the fastest character in the game. That's a bit insane, right? 18% is still quite good, but yeah, I don't mind this nerf. In fact, I would be happy if they nerfed this again down to 2%, but then they buffed her skill 2. Right, you know, buff the skill 2, make it guaranteed to put both stacks of Dreamweave. Fushu nerf. This is pretty significant. This is a 25% reduction in her healing. But a lot of her healing does come from Supernova anyway, so we'll see how big of a difference this actually makes. Right, because my Fushu is 1-1-1, right? So this is basically already her stats, and she still heals like crazy. Right, so basically your 1-1-5 Fushu is going down to 1-1-1 healing and turn meter push-wise. So yeah, she'll be a little bit not as broken. Loan, upon death, removes exaltation. Nice typo. Okay, no, this is just like fully wrong. It's not even. Yeah, so when Loan dies, exaltation just stays on whatever target it was on, and like screws your healing for the rest of the match. But now it goes away when she dies, and then it doesn't reset the cooldown, right? So as we all know, if your character dies with their cooldowns reset, when you revive them, they can use their skills again. And when their cooldowns aren't reset, you revive them and they can't use their cooldowns, right? So like Bayonton S2, many a times I've revived somebody and they still have like 1 turn on their cooldown, and it's like, ugh. So yeah, Loan will not have the cooldown reset anymore. So that's nice. I like that. You know, if you kill Doki, her stacks go away. I feel like if you kill Loan, the debuff should also go away. Right, having a permanent undispellable debuff that lasts even after the character dies, Bloom, is kind of toxic. I feel like shouldn't be around all that much. Lighthouse might be able to cut some slower turn dot players now. I think if you're, you would have to start at 90% because this is Lighthouse and Strive, so it's a 45% push. So yeah, you need to be like 20% faster, or well, not 20. You need to be like 16% faster than the Chiaki or whoever is on Lighthouse to still push past them with turn dot. But it's still very much doable for quite a few characters, right? Yeli, Senyu, any CC. But this will like turbo cut Freya cleave now, so that's nice. Right, like if someone picks Lighthouse, like mostly you pivot CC anyway, because the Lighthouse is really strong against cleave and really weak against CC. So I don't think this changes a whole lot, but it does make it so that if you draft incorrectly into Lighthouses, they will actually be able to cut consistently now. Whereas before you could like misdraft and still just win anyway because you're just that fast. Ouroboros buff, I don't think this changes anything. It does make it better in PvE. It's quite nice. If you already had your Ouroboroses built up for PvE, they're even stronger now. So hip hip hooray. Onslaught getting lifesteal. I feel like this enables a lot of cool builds. I don't know what they are yet. Probably a lot of them are to do with Law of Silence. Right, like Law of Silence plus Mia, I feel like. You could run some like, turn 1 bruisers with no bloodbath and just take like 70-80% reduced damage or something, and then heal it all back up. So I really love that they buffed these sets, right? Because these were completely useless before, right? Like it felt so bad to build a 12-piece of any of these before, but now they actually have some unique utility that makes them actually worth building for certain builds. Wellspring, that might move some characters off of Bloodbath, and 25% damage reduction on your entire health pool versus 55% damage reduction on 80% of your health pool is abysmal. If you see somebody and they're on Wellspring, like you're just gonna giga one-shot them with Liliums, with Hoyens, with Messiahs, but this will be a lot stronger against CC, right? Because instead of because Bloodbath gives you no damage reduction against CC because you're never taking more than 20% of your health in one hit. So now it's 25%, which is quite nice. But then once again, it's a lot less damage reduction on any skill that's gonna like one-shot your dude. Right, because Bloodbath, you take the first 20% and then the remaining 80% of your health, you got that 55% damage reduction, which I think levels out to like 47 to 51% total damage reduction if you're getting one shot. That going down to just 25, like it's going to be a lot easier to one-shot people if they're building Wellspring instead of Bloodbath. Unbreakable shield received. I don't think the 12-piece is usable still, because there's so many defense breaks and so many defense ignores in the game that you'll just get one shot. Right, with Wellspring, like you can get away with using a 12-piece Wellspring because HP is HP, but the defense can, like you have 4,000 defense, they can just chop it in half and then some. So it's but the 8-piece is going to be really nice. 20% more shielding and 25% defense, like that's pretty good. Battle Will still probably useless. Any build that you already used Battle Will on is going to be stronger now, so that's nice. Harvest was already strong, now it's really strong. Right, defense break is only 60%, so this is almost a defense down just from an 8-piece set, which is really nice. Cure is healing and shielding, which makes it a lot better. Evil Guard gives you speed instead of effect res, which makes it a lot better. Class Guard, 10% more effect res. I don't think that really matters, but it's nice. Actually, no, it does matter, because if you're fighting like a Holden or a Rahu or something, their skill, like they're not going to be built on any effect accuracy. But having this effect res will make it much less likely that you get defense broken by their skill 1. That's actually probably quite good. Freeze, it went from Torpor to half a Torpor, right? So now Deeding is the only character in the game that can completely stop you from gaining turn meter, which I think that is probably healthy for the game. Freeze just like completely screwing you and being like twice as strong as any other CC was pretty toxic. I don't think I like that it's 50%. I think it should be like 75% maybe. But that might still be too strong. So I think Freeze is still very strong. It's still going to be really good. But I think now Petrify is a lot stronger than it used to be, right? Because now we have Santic and Kethos that can increase their skills, and then Petrify that makes it so that when they take their turn, their skill doesn't decrease. So on the next turn, they'll still be skill cooldowns, right? And then you can Petrify them again, and then on the next turn, they'll still, right? So even when they finally do get their turn on like the 4th turn of the fight, they'll still have no skills. So yeah, I think Petrify is a lot more viable now. And then when multiple units are ready to act at the same time, they will take action in the order they get their turn. Right, so I don't know if that means like whoever reaches 100% first goes, right? So like if you boost your whole team to 100 with turn dot, and then like their gigabyte goes off, like you'll still get your turns first. Or if that means when like all of your abilities are popping at the same time, right? So like this would happen to me a lot when I was cleaving the Etheria teams with Raymary on my team. Is both of our Raymarys would hit 100 stacks, and then it would be just like randomly who goes first, right? Sometimes it would be mine, sometimes it would be theirs, and right, and then like Fiamelia also has a skill that cuts in between, and then there's like brambles and stuff, and then Tiamat, her skill, when she goes dragon, she gets an extra turn. So I'm assuming what this means is when all of those abilities go off like on the same turn, like all at the same time, it's just whoever, like the order that their turn meter is in is the order that the abilities will activate in, is what I read from this. But I hope it's the former, not the latter, right? Like if you can push your whole team to 100% and then just like not get cut, that would be awesome. But no, I think it's the latter, because the former would just be super broken. Like that would make turn that probably by far the strongest character in the game. Right, like imagine how busted that would be. You push your whole team to the front and then there's nothing they can do about it. Right, like they just have to go after your whole team. That would suck. But anyway, so that's my thoughts on the new buffs. I think Messiah is I think Messiah is going to pop off this season. Right, this being like that's crazy, dude. P5 Messiah is going to be so strong. 400% damage on the skill 3. Right, Yellie's probably going to be way more consistent now. Right, she'll probably one-shot the main target that you're aiming at, like, 4 out of 5 games instead of every other game. Right, and so with Raymary, I think Yellie already is a very strong cleave option if you have Raymary on the team, because you just hit the S3, you target the squishiest unit that they have, and then she kills it, and then Raymary goes off, and then deals her turn. And that's another reason why I think the Gator is going to be really strong, right? Because you hit the Yellie S3, it kills something. So your Raymary gets 30% push from that, and then also all the turn meter steal from the skill 3, right? And so she's pretty much guaranteed to just take the next turn, right? You're looking at like 60, like probably at least 45% turn meter push, but probably like 60 plus. And then because the Yellie is more consistently landing the defense break now, right? 75% chance for 3 hits, right? Your Raymary is going to have a defense broken skill 1 to execute somebody. So I feel like if you have Raymary first pick, Yellie is going to be a much stronger cleave option now than she was last season. Alright, Doki, she's actually fast now. But yeah, my Doki is skill 1 is not leveled, so this would be 15, right? This will be a 356 speed Doki, right? So I would definitely expect to see some people having a Doki opener now. And these stacks, when they push your teammates, they give them data streams, which increases their damage dealt, right? So opener Doki is going to be pretty strong, especially with Hoyen, because she'll be able to reset your passive cooldown, right? You'll be able to cleave the crap out of people. Let's see what else. I think Rahu will be a bit less. No, I think Rahu will be a bit more infuriating to play, because with this at 60% now instead of 50, like you're still gonna miss it a lot, and it's gonna feel awful when you do, right? Like they honestly should just make this every other, right? Instead of a 50% chance, just every other hit he assists guaranteed, right? That would make it very predictable, and it would still be that 50% of the time. Giada might actually be playable now. Kethos is gonna be insane, right? So just like how Fiamelia is the offensive upgrade to Aya. I thought she would be the offensive side grade, but no, she's definitely an upgrade. Right, where Aya is a lot more defensive, a lot more healing. She heals every turn as long as you're debuffed. So against like CC teams, what in the world? Against CC teams, like she's gonna heal you for more than Fia will, but she doesn't do any damage, right? So on turn 1 teams, she's pretty bad, right? But Fia is very good. I think Kethos is gonna be a lot like that to Santic, right? Santic is a bit more defensive, right? He's got the cleanse on his skill 3. Yeah, that's basically it. He's got the cleanse on his skill 3, whereas Kethos has a defense break and then does a lot more damage. Right? You know, Santic's skill 2 doesn't do any damage really. Kethos skill 2 does a lot of damage. So I think he's also going to be an offensive side grade slash upgrade to Santic. I say side grade because this damage certainly does look good, but at the same time, especially on a build like this, 50 crit damage from Santic, and then if you're pairing him with Turandot, that's 65 crit damage. That is way more damage than Kethos is going to be doing, right? You know, giving this Messiah another 65 crit damage is significantly more than whatever Kethos S2 does, right? But we will have to see. Season starts in 5 hours, so I'm very excited about this Tiamat skin, right? Best skin in the game, and it's not even close. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on the new balance patch, new shells, new characters. You know, we'll see how the meta actually shakes up from this. Alright, this is really cool. And yeah, that's all I got for this time. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you next time.